Hello everybody and welcome back to another new vlog. Thank you for joining me once again here in a woodland again, as you can tell. I'm in a woodland that I actually photographed this time last week for the previous vlog, not the last vlog that I did but the one before that. And I was actually photographing this woodland around here, just out there on that path just behind me. So instead I've come into this woodland today to try and capture some interesting shots here, and I think I've got one or two that I quite like. As I stand here just behind me, there is a framework which involves this tree here and this tree here with the double trunk, and then there are a couple of trees behind it. One of them has got a double trunk and one has got a triple trunk, which are all very interesting. And then in front of them there's a tree just here with one branch that kind of runs across the top of the frame as well, and I think that makes quite an interesting frame with all of that involved. But I'd like to capture both dynamic range and everything in focus here, so this is going to be quite an interesting shot, and I'll explain what I'm doing in just a moment. So what I had to do with that shot is I had to set up the camera and focus on one point within the composition, and once I was focused on that one point, then I had to shoot 3 separate exposures so that I was bracketing the exposures just on that particular focus point to start with. And then once I've taken those 3 exposures focused on that point, I also then needed to change my focus point, but not actually move the camera, just move the focus to a different point within the composition. And then I had to bracket the exposures again using 3 more exposures, preferably the same exposures as the first focus point. And then after that I've had to make another focus point and do another exposure bracket with 3 separate exposures, and in this case there's quite a lot of depth in the image, so I've had to do that process a 4th time. And what I've got is 12 separate images where 3 of them are focused on one point but with different exposures, and then another 3 are focused on another point with different exposures, and then another 3 on a different focus point with the same 3 exposures, and then another 3 on the 4th focus point with 3 separate exposures again. And the idea is I'm going to blend those all together in my editing software when I get home. But that's quite a difficult shot to achieve, and the only reason I wanted to try that is because there's quite a high dynamic range here, because we've got light coming in from above the tree canopy, but also it's quite dark at ground level where you're in the woodland. So I had to try and capture the 3 separate exposures to capture that dynamic range, but also there's quite a lot of depth in the image, like I said, so I needed to use a focus stat to get all 4 focus points in this case in the image properly in focus. So I found a little scene just behind me. I've carried on walking along that path and into another little bit of woodland, and I've got this scene behind me, and you can see, I don't know how well you can see it, but this path is completely covered by this carpet of leaves, so you can't really see the path. You can see where it's leading, but you can't really see the path, and you've got trees either side of the path which are all sort of crooked and gnarly and looking quite interesting themselves. But I like the way the path kind of slopes downwards and kind of undulates as it goes as well. And then you've got the trees either side that are all kind of leaning in towards the path. It's quite an interesting little composition, but again we've got the issue with depth of field and dynamic range as well. So again I've tried to shoot this shot where I've shot one image which is focused on one particular spot, and then I've bracketed 3 exposures, and then I've focused on a second spot in the composition and again bracketed 3 exposures, and then I've focused on a third spot within this composition and bracketed 3 more exposures. This time I decided to use just 3 focal points rather than 4, because first of all, it didn't really need more than 3 focal points anyway, this one. But also I know that when I get back to edit this at the end of the afternoon, it's going to be a right bugger to edit when there's so many different images and so many different compositions that have got to be edited, and focus points and dynamic range and so on. But I've got one more little shot that I want to try as well, which means a little bit of a walk. So I'm going to make my way over there now and see what I can get there. So with this composition, we've once again got the same issue. We've got a tree here, we've got a tree in the middle quite a lot further back, and another tree just at the edge there. The 2 trees at the edge of this scene are actually making a decent framework for it, but obviously there's quite a bit of depth between them, and we've got quite a high dynamic range as well. Now I know what you're thinking. I'm using the Canon EOS RP, which has got an automatic HDR mode built into it, so I can actually shoot HDR images with this camera and just shoot them in camera and let the camera do all the editing. And then once that's done, then I can shoot the various different focal points myself. So it would mean that I would only end up taking 3 shots instead of 12 or 16. So I had to get off that path, off that road. Too many people just walking past and staring at me, giving me dirty looks as if I was doing something wrong. But as you can see, that there is the road I was on, and I was looking from this sort of area, looking up the road towards this tree and some other trees further back that you can't see now. So what I've done by coming off the path, off that little road there, is found a composition here which is quite interesting. You've got these trees here which are right at the front of the image, and then you've got this tree here which is a little way back, and then this tree just before the path, and there's also another tree just on the other side of the path that I'm focused on. And I think I've focused in 3 separate spots on that one. I don't think I've focused on these trees at the front, because I'm thinking I might be cropping those out in the edit suite. But I've focused on 3 points in this scene, and I've let the camera choose the exposures and shoot 3 exposures, so it'll be bracketing 3 exposures each time, but the camera has actually decided on what are the best 3 exposures, and it's given me an HDR image from those 3 exposures that the camera's already edited for me. It means there's less work for me when I'm editing them later, but also it means that I've got less control over what I'm editing. So if I want to add a bit extra to the highlights, it makes it more difficult for me to do that now. If I want to add some more colour to it, it makes it more difficult for me to do that now, because it's given me a JPEG image rather than a RAW image. However, that's not such a big problem, because it does give me the opportunity to try and compare the 2 images and see which I prefer the most. That's going to be the last image of the day, I think. If you've enjoyed this vlog and you've learnt anything from it, please let me know by putting a comment in the comments box below, and please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on another video very soon. Bye for now.